Good afternoon, everyone. It's the 8th and final day of the 2020 Virtual Reentry Conference for the state of Missouri. I'm Wendell Kimbrough. It's my honor to serve as the Chief Executive Officer for Area Resources, Community and Human Services, better known as ARCHES, based in St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you to everyone that's been participating throughout the month of October. For those of you that attended on Tuesday, we were given the opportunity to hear the inspiring story of John Stroop, the Executive Director of Freeway Ministries. He shared his inspiring story about how drug addiction landed him in prison years ago, and he now runs a successful ministry to help justice-involved individuals get proper identification, rehabilitation treatment, education, life skills, and even rides to important court dates. If you missed his keynote speech, it's available to watch on the conference app under the Agenda tab. Click on Tuesday's date, and there will be a button to view the recording. Also on Tuesday, we released the last rounds of videos for the film festival. You can also watch those on the conference app. We'd like to thank those of you that are participating, and we will get started after a few housekeeping notes. This is a Zoom webinar, so attendees are not on the camera and are automatically muted. The only people you can see or hear are the host and the panelists. Again, the webinar is being recorded, and it's going to be available to everyone in 48 hours. If you would like to ask our panel or conference host questions, you can utilize the Q&A feature below. For other comments and discussion, the chat feature is also an option. You can send chat messages to everyone the same way we've been sending chat messages to each other as hosts and panelists in preparation for today. Questions will be delivered to the facilitators and will appear in the Q&A windows as they are answered. You can also edit the view of your own screen. On the Zoom toolbar, there's a drop-down list that says View Options with a few choices there. You can also adjust the size of your PowerPoint and the video screens if you prefer a larger or smaller screen. If you're on a mobile device, simply tap the smaller screen to switch. We've had wonderful sponsors for our conference. Today, we want to thank the Missouri Coalition of Recovery Support. They sponsored the conference app and the webpage. And as we all know, there are a number of cool features on this year's app. The app allows you to interact with each other, conference attendees, once you log in. And as we all know, we have that wonderful shake feature if we want to interact and engage with each other. The app features a wall where you can post pictures or conversations. Please, if you would, let's post some pictures of us, even though we're only sitting down and viewing laptops or mobile devices. It's still fun to have a look at everybody that's engaged. One critical last housekeeping note. If you're watching with a friend, if you're watching with a coworker, if you happen to be socially distant in a conference room, would you please, through the chat room, let us know how many participants you have on the one screen. It's critical for us to measure all of the participants, all of the watchers, so that we know just how many people are watching, and we want to make sure everyone is accounted for. Let's get to work. Today, we continue the discussion, and we're excited because we get to talk about the community partnerships, of which ARCHES is one of 20. The topic for today is an essential support for reentry, the community partnerships. It's going to be led by Mr. Bill Dent. Bill Dent is our Executive Director of the Family and Community Trust. Basically, the community partnerships boss, for lack of a better term, our supervisor, for lack of a better term. You can read Bill's entire bio on the conference app. Bill is going to lead the panel, and I'm going to now turn it over to Bill as we discuss community partnerships and essential support for reentry. Bill.
Wendell, thank you very much. And before I get into a few remarks, before we get into the panel discussion and introduce a special guest, I do want to say a great note of thanks to not only the folks at Arches and all of this steering committee or the planning committee who were involved in it, but also the folks at DOC for pivoting to this virtual world that we're in and doing a great job and making it as meaningful a conference as any, I think. So thank you to your team. We really appreciate it. As Wendell noted, I am Bill Dent, and I do have the privilege of being the executive director of an organization called the Family and Community Trust. And I was looking at the calendar, and I have a note for next Tuesday, I believe. It'll be our 27th birthday as an organization. We were birthed in state government in 1993, and we'll be 27 next Tuesday. And we've been involved in the work of reentry for probably at least 2 decades, all of our community partnerships. We're a private public board, we're a 501c3, and we have a unique makeup of that board in that it is a private public organization, and we have 10 public organizations, the cabinet folks of 10 state agencies, and right now we have 11 private citizens who help guide this work across the state through our statewide network of official community partnerships, of which Wendell noted that we have 20 of those. Our main office is in Jefferson City, and but our network traverses the whole state from the Northeast to the Southwest and Kansas City to the Boot Heel. We say that we cover about 96% of where children and families are in our state. So we have wide coverage. So that's enough about our organization, and I am privileged to lead this group and interface with our network of community partnerships and our board. And to that end, I invited a special guest to be with us today, who is co-chairperson of our board, Steve Rennie. So I just want to turn it over to Steve to talk a little bit about his experience, not only from his perspective as co-chairman now in the private sector of the board, but your long time with state agencies, specifically DSS, in the work there. So Steve Rennie, welcome. It's good to see you, and thanks for taking the time to be with us this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Bill. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is a treat to be with you here today in this virtual setting. The wonders of technology, right? You can see I'm in my living room in my cabin, so a long ways from most everybody. But it's a miracle to me that we can bring folks together in these times of COVID. So I'm happy to be here. As Bill mentioned, I serve as co-chair of the FACT board. The other co-chair is Jennifer Tidball, and she is the director of the Missouri Department of Social Services. So the Family and Community Trust, or FACT, has always strived to serve as a bridge between state agencies and communities. Our board has members, as Bill said, from multiple state agencies and from the civic and business sectors. The role of the private sector members is to provide a different perspective to us, some balance, and perhaps some accountability to our state agency partners. And I say this accountability part as the former director of social services, where I worked for about 20 years. I would describe social services as an umbrella cabinet level agency reporting to the governor that administers large federal programs. And it's important that many of these federal programs are identical in every corner of the state. Medicaid eligibility, food stamp benefits, they all need to look the same in every community. But I think these large programs began to affect the mindset of all of us in the department. We tried to ensure that all of our programs were identical in every corner of the state. And that meant we didn't consider community assets or community needs. and we didn't directly engage folks in the community as we rolled out programs. So the whole idea of FACT is to encourage community engagement by state agencies and to partner with communities whenever and wherever possible, and to build community solutions to issues identified within the community, building on community assets and closing the gaps in community shortfalls. So you're here today to hear from several of our community partners. They will be describing their individual approaches to working on reentry. Reentry is an initiative of the Missouri Department of Corrections. It involves other state agencies, and it has active participation from our community partners. The design of reentry exemplifies our hopes at FACT. So sit back and listen to a few of the stories our community partners are here to tell. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you, Steve. Excellent job as always. So let's get into the meat of it. So this is going to be a panel discussion, and the idea was that we wanted to give all of you who are on this Zoom webinar kind of a sense of the work of reentry from the community standpoint, particularly about our community partnerships across the state. And so we often say that if you see one community partnership, you've seen one community partnership, because their goal, the measure of their worth often is that they are accurately reflecting their community. And so in order to do that, they have to assess what the community's needs are and help bubble up those needs to a higher level and address those community-wide. So we chose to do a thematic around the themes of reentry. And so we're gonna start out with talking about, this power of partnering with other agencies around the initiative. We're going to talk about reentry from the aspect of workforce development. We're going to focus on how do you engage other stakeholders, critical pieces and organizations in the work of reentry at the local level. And then finally, we want to talk about and give an example about how fatherhood development is a critical and important role and function and component of reentry efforts across the state. So let's begin by doing a brief introduction of each of our panelists today. Let me start with Tom Duggar from Hannibal. Tom, just give a brief intro if you would, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom, and I'm the Executive Director for Families and Communities Together. It is the partnership for Marion County. We're located in Hannibal, Missouri. We have been a community partnership since 1995, and this is the third time over the past 8 years that we've actually had a Department of Corrections reentry program.
Thanks, Tom. Melissa, tell us a little bit about yourself from Cape Girardeau.
Hi, I'm Melissa Stickle, Executive Director of Community Partnership of Southeast Missouri. Like Bill said, we're out of Cape Girardeau, serving not just Cape Girardeau County, but some surrounding areas. And like Tom, we've been a partnership for quite some time and have on and off had community reentry funds, and have been doing reentry work since early 2000s.
Thank you, Melissa. Excellent. Rebecca Pacheco in Poplar Bluff. Tell us a little bit about yourself to the group, please.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Pacheco with Butler County Community Resource Council. We've been a community partnership since the early 90s also. As far as our reentry efforts, we have been a grantee to provide reentry work in the community.
Thanks, Rebecca. And then last but not least, of course, Brian Williams in Moberly.
Good afternoon. This is Brian Williams from Randolph County Caring Community Partnership in Central Missouri and the great magic city of Moberly. Served as the executive director now here soon, almost 20 years, and our partnership celebrated our 20th year celebration last October. And so we have been involved in reentry efforts, as Bill said, since the early 2000s.
Thanks, Brian. So just as a little housekeeping thing, we'll go ahead and I'll have Jean Ann Markway post each of their websites in the chat feature, so that's on record and you'll have that whether you want to link to it right now or just do it later as a reference. So let's queue up the first slide, which would be Tom's slide, folks from Arches, if you do that. And Tom, you're going to speak to us about the power of partnering and the value of that. So I'll hand it to you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. So the importance of partnering, the power of partnering. So by partnering with other agencies, we can provide more services to our clients. It stretches the dollars that we have available. By partnering, we are able to provide program services to our clients that we don't have in-house, but we can plug our other clients into those programs. Now, the reentry program that we have actually meets basic needs of reentry clients. And so those needs would include things, real simple things like eyeglasses or IDs or birth certificates or work clothes. It would be doing casework to get them plugged into getting housing and those kinds of things. So I want to talk about the partners that we actually have, because you can see a list of those on the slide in the Power of Partnering slide. And the Clarity Healthcare is our federally qualified healthcare center here in Hannibal. They have a program called RISE, and RISE is a program that uses behavioral health systems to access medical, dental, mental health, and substance use services. They also provide employment services, and they do casework. So we plug our clients into these programs directly so that we're not spending our dollars to get that work accomplished. The other thing that you'll see there is Christian Women's Job Corps. So Christian Women's Job Corps is one of the locations here in our community that does the HISET program. They will do the classes that people need in order to get their GED. And not to worry, even though it says Christian Women's Job Corps, they do take males into that program. Another program you'll see is called Project Community Connect. Project Community Connect is actually our community's homeless initiative here in town. And then there's another one called Tri-County Alliance for Unmet Needs. That is a community organization that meets the needs of individuals and families that have exhausted all other resources and still have a need of some kind. So both of these, both Project Community Connect and Tri-County Alliance, provide housing and utility deposits. They also provide payments for rent, and they provide payments for utilities, and they can provide emergency housing in hotels if that's needed. Our Community Action Corporation, which is NECAC, is the organization in our community that helps our clients with the Low Income Energy Assistance Program, or might be better known as LIHEAP. Turning Point Recovery Centers is just what it says. It is helping people to recover from a substance abuse of some kind. So we partner with Turning Point to transition their clients out of their residential program directly into housing so that the reentry clients can become independent and begin living on their own, substance free. Preferred Family Healthcare is a mental health provider in the area, but they are the ones that have the rapid rehousing program, and they're sort of the gatekeeper, if you will, in the community for those who might need housing or might be at risk of being homeless or might actually be homeless. Harvest House is a faith-based program that provides a sober living residence for both men and women. And so we oftentimes make referrals of our reentry clients to that for housing because they can provide some additional supports for those clients that they might need at that time. You'll see one on the screen called Pop House or Post Offender Project. The Pop House is rather unique because it is one of the few places that actually takes sex offenders and it is a special program just for sex offenders. And we do partner with them when we have clients that are in that situation. We can get them housed in the Pop House. Our other partners allow us special privileges to be able to provide services to reentry clients. And they can do things like accept payments later after they've seen the clients. So we don't have to go there with the client and set that up initially. They will see clients based on our voucher or based on our fax to them, based on an email, based on a phone call, and then we can actually make arrangements to pay for those services at a later point in time. And some of the ones you'll see on here are rather surprising, like DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. We have an arrangement with them whereby our clients can go there to get their IDs, and then we pay them later. The same is true for Grand Pharmacy. Clients can get medications there, and we can pay them later. And interestingly enough, Walmart has the same arrangement for us. Walmart actually has an eye care center, and they will let us have our clients go there, get eye exams, get glasses, and then we can pay them after the fact. And the doctor that is there has the same arrangement where she will do the eye exam and write the prescriptions, and then we can pay her later. So you can see that many of these are making special arrangements for us because we're dealing with a special clientele, and we're partnering with them to make sure that the people in our community are being taken care of without a lot of red tape and without a lot of difficulties. So as you can see, it is important to partner with other agencies in our communities. And it really does provide things that we couldn't do on our own because we can plug them into all kinds of different programs. We could get them services immediately. We don't have to always be with that client holding their hand when they go. They can become more independent that way. And so we're happy to be able to have the Department of Corrections Reentry Program and be able to partner with lots of our other agencies in the community.
Thanks, Tom. I have a couple of follow-up things. Tell me how it appears that maybe is this a no wrong entry kind of system, or do you have a coordinated kind of case management about a particular client or customer that's coming to seek services? How does that work?
Well, sure, and appreciate you asking, Bill. So we have a person who is our Department of Corrections Reentry Program Coordinator. The Community Supervision Center or Probation and Parole here in town will make a referral for their clients to our program, and they will deal directly with Stephanie, who's our coordinator. Stephanie's actually on the call today, looking in and watching, and we
checking in on you.
Excuse me?
Checking in on you, making sure you're doing it right, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, she's been in on several of the sessions, actually. The other one that refers clients directly to us is Turning Point. And then, as you can imagine, then there's sort of a word of mouth situation whereby others who know that we have the program will begin to make referrals to us for services that we have for reentry people.
Thanks. I was struck too by there's a certain level of dignity by having those partners in terms of from the client's perspective when you have those arrangements already, so there doesn't have to be any kind of uncomfortable exchange about how things will be paid for or covered. So we appreciate that. I've got a few more questions, but I think we're going to move on for now, Tom. Thank you.
There's a question on there. Is the Pop House for men and women both?
Thanks, Jean-Ann. Did you hear that, Tom?
I did, and that is a good question. And the Pop House is actually just for males.
Thanks. Good reminder, though, Jean-Ann. Please don't wait. If you have questions that are coming to mind, we're going to go through all 4 community partnerships in sequence here. But if you have questions that come up, to go ahead and put those in the Q&A and get them queued up. And I have some questions myself for the panelists. So but let's turn to Cape Girardeau and Melissa Stickle, the executive director there. Talk about your efforts around. Let's start with this. So you have a guest with you. It looks like seated there, Melissa.
I do.
Talk about who that is and what's going on there. You are focused on workforce, and I know that you walk the walk and do the talk. So share with us who's with you.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. So this is Tony Davis, and he's a peer specialist that is working at our office as part of a grant through Workforce Development Board, which actually ends on November 1st or something like that. And we're really lucky to have him, and we'll continue his employment here out of our agency as a community support specialist. So I'm gonna have Tony talk here in just a little bit, because he's got a great story to share about his life and how it intersects in this world of employment. So as Bill alluded to, talking the talk and walking the walk, not only do we probably do several of the other pieces of reentry that our other partnerships are going to talk about, but one of the things that we do here pretty robustly is workforce development activities. We know that workforce and particularly unemployment is so high in the reentry and justice involved individuals that it is oftentimes one of those factors that can make or break or cause a person to be successful or not successful in their reentry journey. So whatever we can do to be part of that, that's what we try to do. And workforce, we know, is a key area. So some things that we have here, we have EDGE. It's empowering dads to gain employment. It is a very robust workforce program that is funded by the Family Support Division, and it is about 11 county areas, and it is focused on rapid job employment. So our goal is to get individuals housed within, a job within 90 days. That's our goal. And then to make sure that they are successful on that job, we track them for 6 months. Now, this particular program is not only individuals that are justice involved, but we have very many individuals in that program that are justice involved. And so we really work specifically with that population on overcoming those barriers, those conversations on how to talk about the background and how to move forward. And then we have the Southeast Missouri Training and Employment Partnership, STEP. And so that has a few little things underneath it. One of them being a skill up contract that we do have here that helps individuals get training and back into the workforce. But the really exciting one, the one that the whole the PowerPoint slide here is on, is a new adventure that we're going to be doing called Jailhouse Cafe. So if you're not a follower of our agency on Facebook, I would encourage you to do so, because our journey into our new space is on there and you can follow that. And come May, barring anything too crazy, we'll be relocating, interestingly enough, into the former Cape Girardeau police station.
Ironic.
So it's it's coincidental, but or ironic, but it's really great. So we have purchased that building, and it is in the middle of being rehabbed quite extensively. We'll relocate all of our services over there. Because it was a police station, it was also the jail. And you just can't go in there and see all the jail space and not do something with it. So we're actually keeping some of the jail cells. Tony laughs at me because he's going to be in and out of there. But we will be using part of the jail space as Jailhouse Cafe. And it will be not only a functioning coffee shop to serve coffee to the public and to me, but it will also be a job training site for individuals that are re-entering from incarceration. So we're really excited about that, because an individual can come in, they can learn safe food, they can learn customer service, cashiering, work skills, also pairing with some of the workshops that we do, and then be paired with our employment services to go out and find a job. So our agency does a pretty comprehensive wraparound services, particularly with individuals that are reentering and are justice involved. So workforce development, probably one of our largest, but we also do housing along with that too. So talking the talk. So this is Tony. I'm going to let Tony just introduce himself, and then he'll probably have way more questions than I do.
Hi, Tony.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. And hi, Jean Ann. My name's Tony Davis, and my story started when I decided not to be the person I should have been all my life. I spent approximately 31 years in the Missouri Department of Correction without a recess. I was there for quite a bit of time. And what happened was I had to learn who I wanted to be. Went to prison. I complained about everything in life except myself until I had to come face to face with myself. And so while in prison, I thought it was important for me to give something to somebody else. I had a life plus 15-year sentence. I wasn't looking likely to be released. So I had to make a decision at my crossroads. And that was to serve the other individuals that was in the prison. So I took every program that's why I made that reference to Jeanette, especially ICVC and all the different programs. And I wanted to teach them. And I wanted to give a perspective that I think I had learned to help other individuals grow. What I was blessed with, though, is that I had the opportunity to leave prison. And now I have an opportunity to help individuals who are coming home from prison.
He's got a beautiful story. I'm sure if there might be questions and people might ask him later, but one of the things that we're blessed with is having him part of this grant through Workforce Development Board. And he has been such an asset to our agency. Actually, him and another, we have 2 peer specialists here, and both of them we are going to retain as employees of the partnership to not only demonstrate that people deserve a second chance and people can do the work despite their background, but also to give us perspective and other clients perspective and other agency partners perspective on what individuals that are justice involved go through. So that is
Great.
the bulk of what we do.
Thank you, Melissa, and thanks so much for sharing your story. That's very powerful for us to hear. Wanted to mention just a quick question. So I've been to the partnership, of course, several times over the 20 years or so, and I remember the effort around it. It started out as a homeless effort, kind of a community-wide homeless access point for a whole host of services, and I think over time that kind of morphed into more just access for folks who needed assistance of all kinds. Is that still going on, and how does that intersect with the work of reentry in the environs around the Cape?
Sure, yeah. Housing and homelessness is another significant issue. Housing in particular for individuals that are reentering, if they don't have a home plan or they have a home plan that's doesn't end up lasting or isn't healthy, then we end up with significant amount of people that are on the streets and are homeless. And then that, of course, subsequent to that is probably going back. So I mentioned earlier that we do housing. So our agency has several state contracts with the Missouri Housing Development Commission. So we do rapid rehousing, emergency solutions, housing assistance. We're also the regional lead for coordinated entry for anybody that's homeless in an 11 county area. They come through here. And then at our new facility, one of the really cool places besides the jail upstairs, downstairs, we will have a homeless point of entry space. Haven't quite named it. We're loosely calling it home base. But it will be a day supportive services center where individuals that are literally homeless can come in, take a shower, do their laundry, and then access all of the housing services that our agency provides in this region. And even though, again, there's really not one of our services that I would say is only for justice involved individuals, but we know that's a significant amount of populations that we serve. And so we do many things to cater to that population as well.
And that event, typically, what are the numbers? I mean, they seemed huge to me a few years back.
Well, if you're looking just in our region of the state, kind of our Cape County, last point in time count, we had 26 individuals that were literally homeless, meeting HUD definition. That's on a cold winter night in January where we're trying to hunt people down. We know that number is grossly underrepresented. Right. If you look at, we maintain a list of people that present homeless around the region. We have a couple hundred people actually on that prioritization list, much more accurate number than the point in time count. So yeah, it's a significant number, and that's just literally homeless, not talking about domestic
Right.
violence, situational homeless, and definitely not couch surfing, which we know
Right.
a great deal of justice involved people are couch surfing.
And youth for sure.
And youth, yes.
Thank you both. Let's move on to Butler County, and Rebecca Pacheco down in Poplar Bluff. So the theme for you, as we mentioned earlier, was, the importance of convening and maintaining those relationships with stakeholders. So go ahead, Rebecca, share with us what you all are doing around that effort in Butler County.
Sure, thank you. Here in Butler County, we have a reentry team that meets monthly, and it is made up of many different partners. As you can see, there's a list on the screen that's not all inclusive. We have other individuals who may not be on the list, but representing different sectors of the community. Our individual relationship with probation and parole began at least 10 years ago. And we've had some grants to serve justice involved individuals over the years. We've also partnered on some pilot projects, and through that sparked our interest in working in reentry. Some of the collaborations that the group has worked on over the years, in addition to having roundtable meetings, is a reentry opportunity center. And these are a one-stop shop, kind of mini resource fair. Those are hosted at the Community Supervision Center. We bring together community resources, they set up tables. It starts off with a speaker, usually about a 30-minute presentation, and then the rest is just allowing folks to meet one-on-one with the different agencies and access those community resources. Being a rural area, transportation is a major barrier for people to access services, and so we find that these reentry opportunity centers really do help people get connected with community resources. Another project that the group has worked on is producing some community resource guides. Those are pushed out on our website. And then kind of a novel idea was a magnet that was developed and distributed that had probably like the top 25 resources in the community, and those were distributed to service professionals and also to just individuals in the community. And then also we host job fairs, a fall and spring community job fair. And we have a very tight partnership with probation and parole in pulling off that event. In fact, justice involved individuals usually help us with the setup and takedown of the event. And so we have a very strong presence during the event by individuals from probation and parole. As far as our agency right now, we are providing a couple of different programs that are specifically for justice involved individuals. One of those provides housing and rent, utility assistance, and then the other project provides basic essentials, which is medical, dental, transportation services to justice involved individuals. So I wanted to mention that also.
Thanks, Rebecca. So how do you keep the interest alive and keep those partners at the table and keep that collaborative kind of local effort going around this initiative? How do you do that?
So one of the biggest values of the roundtable meetings, it allows all the partners to share information about their organizations with each other, and also to maybe talk about some trends in the community and address local issues. That is a big value add. Just that process of people being able to talk through issues and share resources and share information. That is something that keeps people coming back to the table, is that opportunity to collaborate with other stakeholders. The other way is by, having a clear purpose and having projects that the group is working on together. That keeps people interested in participating, and that's, partly why we do the job fairs and the reentry opportunity center, things like that, are all value added that benefit not only the clients that we serve, but they also benefit the agencies by helping them with their outreach.
Thanks, Rebecca. And just one quick question. I saw that Captain Wieldy from our local police department is on, and I noted here that the local law enforcement per se is not listed. What's their role? What's their connecting point to this work locally with you?
Our local law enforcement.
Right.
So we have great working relationships with our chief, our police department, and also with our sheriff's department. So, they are always invited. We have had some, higher participation at some time, sometimes and less at others. But they are always supportive of all of the endeavors and participate more through one-on-one conversations and distributions of information.
I think they've served on the board in the past too at some point, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
They served on your board.
On my board, yes. I have law enforcement. I have a retired deputy chief of police from Poplar Bluff that has long served on my board. And we do have a lot of support from local law enforcement.
Thanks, Rebecca. Let's move up into north central part of the state to Moberly, Missouri, the Magic City. Brian Williams. Hey, Brian, before you get started, make sure your mic is on. A little bird told me that you claim to have a long-standing experience with justice-involved folks and the correctional system in Missouri, starting from, they claim, 10 years old. Can you explain that to us, please?
Well, yes, let me definitely clear that up, because I think you've kind of maybe made the people wonder, okay, who is this?
I hope I have.
Anyway, so not because I was bad or in trouble, but because I love baseball. And when I was 10 years old and played baseball, our coaches were individuals, justice-involved individuals that were about to be released and sent back into the community. So they allowed them to be our coaches. So every day, if you're familiar with, in our community, Moberly, the Magic City, we have Moberly Correctional Center. And so we practice in a field every day in the front of the prison. But when we went to play our very first game, they said, hey, we're not playing out there. We're playing on the big field. And I'm like, okay, big field, where's that? Little did we know the big field was inside the prison. So here we were, 10 years old or so, going, and we had to go through the gates to play this game inside the prison. First time ever being inside like that. And the scary thing was, we remember getting the little purple mark by the guard that led us through. And we went through and we heard those gates clank for the first time, very traumatizing. And we said, mister, what happens if this purple mark comes off of us while we're playing? And he says, then you don't get to go home. So needless to say, I went 0 for 4 that day.
Yeah, right.
With 4 strikeouts, but that was the last time. But very traumatizing at 10 years old to be inside the gates, especially unexpectedly like that. But we were doing reentry efforts then.
And here you are, full circle, right? Before you begin, your thematic around this work of reentry is, of course, fatherhood and fatherhood development. But I
Yes.
want to make a bit of news. I talked with John Ginwright, Director of the Child Support Enforcement yesterday, and he noted that congratulations to Melissa Stickle and the Cape Girardeau, who received a new funding contract for fatherhood initiatives there. And it sounds like you've been re-up for a second year, Brian, is that right?
Yes,
Second or third year?
correct. That is correct.
So congratulations to both of you on those efforts. So Brian, take it away, fatherhood development and reentry.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon to everyone. Special thanks to FACT and to Arches and the Department of Corrections and others who put on a successful and great virtual conference. I think for the first time, this has been wonderful, and being able to participate and now being honored to be a panelist along with the other distinguished panelists today. I just really want to say thank you. Our approach is a little different in my part of the presentation. We, like the other partnerships, have to depend upon multiple partners to do our work. So for me to go over that would just kind of be rehashing what you've already heard, but really just to kind of share our story and how it ends up in really with the umbrella of fatherhood with this three-legged stool. As we mentioned earlier, for us, our initial efforts around reentry in the early 2000s was in partnership or collaboration with actually two other partnerships, Pettis County Partnership, Sherry Heron and her great group there, and Boone County Partnership at that time. We participated in a VISTA program where we were able to get individuals in the program and trained to provide reentry services and in our community. And so we chose at that time to go inside the walls because, as we said, we had the correctional facility right in our backyard and thought, well, hey, we have a facility, let's go in. And we became a part of the transitional housing unit to try to provide services for the justice-involved populations that were participating. One of our early discoveries was, and we just didn't realize this, is that a lot of the individuals that were being released weren't coming back to our community. They were going all over the state to different communities other than Randolph. And so it kind of made our work a little bit challenging because we weren't as familiar, except with the partnerships, what agencies in those communities that could help that individual. So we were really limited in what we were doing, even though, you know, we were trying to connect them with employment, housing, education, other services. We really didn't know those communities as well. So the light bulb kind of came on, and we switched our reentry efforts and began working with our probation and parole office as far as working with the population. And as we began working with the probation and parole office, that really brought in our second R of recovery, because the main issue that we found, even though we were trying to still assist with education, employment, housing, and other services, mental health became like the top priority. At that time, our probation parole received, I believe it's called MH3 funds. But as soon as they received the funds, they were gone. It seemed as though almost every individual they were serving had unaddressed mental health needs. And we just discovered that getting the job was great, trying to get education, a GED or higher was great, getting housing, but without good mental health, it just all fell apart. So what we decided to do was to partner our efforts in mental health and behavioral health assistance with our probation and parole office. And I believe when the statewide community funding came out, we were one of the first recipients. I think, you know, small amount of money, maybe 25,000, I can't quite remember. And then that got bumped up to like 100,000. And we were excited to be a recipient of that and to provide mental health services that were needed, especially psychiatric service. We don't have a psychiatrist in our community. And we were able to, even at that time, 8-10 years ago, do virtual psychiatric services that helped. Things were looking well. The community reentry funding kept coming out. And the next time we didn't get the funding, we're like, oh my God, we got this all in place and now we have no money. But, and I'm putting this plug in for partnerships, and I can say this for ours, and I'm quite sure it's the other partnerships. We learn how to handle rejection well. I would say most partnerships, if they're like ours, probably get rejected more than we get approved for funding. but it doesn't stop us because we're very resourceful. And it didn't stop us. I mean, it stung, but the blessing was we didn't get the state funding, but it opened up the door for us to get federal funding. So we ended up getting 3 times more funding for 3 times the length to provide extensive mental health services. So the door that shut opened up a greater door for us to work with our probation, parole, and other agencies and other entities needing mental health services. So hence the leg of recovery came into our reentry effort. So it just wasn't reentry. Now we couple that with recovery, people needing substance abuse recovery, mental health recovery, and it brought that. As we begin to work even more with our individuals, most of them were men, we realized, wait a minute, there's fathers, they're fathers, and they needed assistance in responsible fatherhood. So hence the third leg of responsibility got introduced to us because we realized, like I said, there were fathers and children involved, and we needed to be able to assist with that. And one of the biggest needs in the fatherhood, as Bill had already mentioned, was child support. A lot of our men still had unresolved child support issues, and some actually had went to prison for child support neglect, payment neglect. So that really opened up the door through reentry for us to begin our fatherhood work. It began through our reentry, and as Bill said, we recently received a second contract with the Office of Child Support to provide that child support assistance and systems navigation, which has really bolstered our fatherhood program and has provided these men with an opportunity to get direct services through the outreach unit and to get payments modified, license restored, all kind of good things. So our efforts, as I said, it began through reentry. And now is responsibility. So what we have done is kind of bundled everything, all of our services now to fit just more so the responsibility. That's why you see the Focus on Fatherhood logo. All of our efforts now are through that particular component. And hence you see fatherhood development, that could be family development, motherhood development. All of it's the same. We have kind of a no wrong door policy. So as long as we can get you through any door, we can get you to all of the services, but our main door is our door of Focus on Fatherhood responsibility, where we work directly now with our probation and parole office in our county and have also influenced the work of several partners in other counties in the state and now actually other states. So we're pretty excited about how just starting locally, it has grown statewide, multi-state, and even has kind of a national touch to it as well.
Thank you, Brian. Hey, who are some of the key agencies that you're involved with in your continuum of care effort?
Well, besides, as we mentioned, probation and parole, for sure. Children's Division makes several of referrals. We have our MACC, Mobley Area Community College, which provides opportunity for education. We have some other local, some of our, like our parents as teachers, our Head Starts, and inside our own facility, we have a community office we offer, and one of our key partners is Job Finder. So our participants don't have to leave our facility. They have access to an employment service that's here at least 3 days a week. So I would say for us, because employment is so big, having that partner even housed within our same facility is a major, and it's major for our participants.
Thanks, Brian. I do want to note that we do have some questions coming in, and I don't want the folks who have posed those to think we're skipping over them. We're not. We will certainly get to them. I just have a couple more that generally for all 4 of our panelists. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot is, you know, as the social media world and the use of it builds and increases and grows, and the power of it is being seen you know, all over. How would you say you've utilized social media in your efforts, specifically around the 4 topical areas that you talked about: the power of partnering, workforce, you know, engaging stakeholders, keeping them connected, and fatherhood? Can you all speak to that? Anybody want to start? Melissa?
Sure. Yeah, sure, Bill, I can start. Well, we have a lot of fun on social media. So I mentioned earlier, like follow us on Facebook. So we have several channels that we're on, but notable to workforce development activities. One of the things that we started several months ago, and not necessarily COVID pandemic related, but it kind of fell really good at that time, was Edge Talks. And so our employment specialists host 2-minute tips every week about different employment related things, barriers, resume, soft skills, how to dress, how to answer this question. And so every week we have Edge Talks, kind of like TED Talks, and they post that out on social media. We also do a podcast. It's not specific to workforce, but it does, some of the topics are workforce related. And so we put that out there. And then we also use a lot of, it's not necessarily social media, but we've done a lot of virtual Zoom workshops. So they're in person and available Zoom. So just any kind of virtual strategy we can do to deliver the service. But we love social media. It is a lot of fun.
And how do you feel your engagement's been? How do you measure? Are you measuring that through the standard kind of typical?
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the typical metrics about followers and likes and comments and shares and all of those things. Any way you would typically measure a social media metric.
Are you
but
seeing?
we particularly like comments. Obviously, that's the highest level of engagement. So we really try to drive those comments back and forth.
Any other panelists want to speak to that use of social media in this effort?
Well, we do have a Facebook page, but that's really the extent. We learned that most of our fathers utilize Messenger. We were able to reach them, but then the challenge has been probably 60% or more of our participants don't have a device. So we're uniquely working in partnership. Hopefully it unfolds next month where we'll be able to provide the device and a data package for free to our fathers, and that's going to assist us with our additional virtual services, our Zooms or Google Duos and other apps that we need our fathers. So our biggest challenge right now, we've got to get the device into the hands of our fathers, especially that come through our probation and parole component.
Thanks, Brian. Anybody else? Let's kind of move then into the official kind of Q&A from all of the folks who have stayed with us on the webinar. If there are other questions, please post those. Let's address some of these. Here's one from an anonymous attendee, but a very good question. Is there a clearinghouse of Missouri-wide or a Missouri-wide list of reentry programs like these that we can access in order to refer offenders to, based on the area where they have their home plan? For example, what resources exist in Northwest Missouri? So I can answer it from my perspective, and that is, I don't think we have a comprehensive list from our community partnerships perspective, but the reentry unit, DOC, may be capturing that, and if they are, maybe they want to add something in chat there. But in Northwest Missouri, of course, we do have a community partnership in 2 areas of that state, that area of the state. In Buchanan County, the St. Joseph Youth Alliance would be a connecting point. And then I'll drive you back to mofac.org. Our website has the listing of all of our community partnerships across the state. One caveat I will tell you is that on that map, it shows a location in a particular city in a county. But as I referenced earlier in my comments, their sphere of influence is far broader than the county and the location of their office. So, and we've done a mapping where if you did a 70-mile radial arm out from all of the locations of our community partnerships across the state, they have statewide coverage basically. But that would be a good starting point. And then of course in the Kansas City area, local investment commission that serves Jackson, Clay, and Platte is available there. Are you all, the 4 of you who are doing the presentations today, are you aware of any other kind of resource list, clearinghouse?
I mean, we do, I think they are very localized probably to a partnership. We do resource cards for our communities that we serve here, and they're kind of small. You pass them out. They have a lot of things on them. You can get them online. Other than like 211 maybe would be a large resource area. I don't think there's anything that's really comprehensive statewide, at least that I know of. I think
Not,
it's hard to manage.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill,
Right.
if I could jump in from a St. Louis metropolitan standpoint, there is the St. Louis Alliance for Reentry that Arches is fortunate enough to be part of the leadership team that provides, that can provide that kind of information for the city of St. Louis County, St. Charles County, and some of the other surrounding counties. And pretty comprehensive in being able to direct someone who is coming back to freedom and no longer justice involved, or those that may still be under P&P. There is information that can support them.
right. And we don't have it statewide, but through our Community Connections MO system that we use for our data management, we have a component called Mobile Case. And we have hundreds of listings, and we're actually doing mapping right now of agencies in the central northeast area, inclusive of Boone County, of all entities that provide services. So they could go to our website and you'll see where it says resources. You could just click in, something similar like a 211, but I think it has more information. It will give you, not only the specific agency, but eligibility. So you'll know what requirements, who's eligible, and what information or documents you'll need to present when you come to the office. So that's a part of our Community Connections mobile case component.
Thanks. Check the chat too. Ken just posted something for all the DOC folks who are on the call in terms of an internal computer drive that has some information. There's a question from Sherry. I won't destroy your last name, Sherry. Won't attempt it. But here's the question. I am a P&P officer in Joplin, Neosho, Mo area in the southwest corner of the state. We hear of so many awesome programs that are available for our clients to assist them with their life needs, but unfortunately the programs seem very city, region specific and are not available to our clients. What can we do to try to get some of the services discussed, like the eye care through Walmart, for our clients down here? Excellent question. And again, I will say, I kind of referenced earlier that you've seen one partnership, you've only seen one, but we do have one in Southwest Missouri that covers Jasper, Newton, and McDonald counties specifically. And that's the Alliance of Southwest Missouri. Jen Black is our executive director there. But I think part of our work from the community partnerships across all 20 is that we try to share kind of those things across our partnerships so that they can see what's happening in reentry in other areas of the state. So this could be an instance where, we connect Tom with Jen and have that specific conversation of, Tom, how did you get that done with Walmart and some of those other partners, and see if they can't provide some connectors for Jen in Southwest Missouri. So I think we need to make a concerted effort to try to get that information out there. And I think to all of our community partnerships. And so also, you all need to know that our partnerships come together, the executives, on a regular basis, roughly every month, with the exception of a few months of the year where we have a board meeting. And these kinds of things are covered, or at least discussed, across all of our community partnerships. So we do our best to try to share the resources and the best practices that some of our partnerships are using across all 20. Let's see here. Do you interface with the recovery community centers in St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, and Springfield? Brian, do you have any connection with the one in Columbia?
Very little. That's actually through Powerhouse. I think they have the greater connection because they're
out of Marshall.
Yes, out of Marshall. They're providing addition, and they have a reentry house, a transitional house. So we kind of let them take the lead with those efforts, and then any support we can give them. So that would be Powerhouse.
Wendell, I'll throw it back to you. What's your connection to the recovery community centers there in St. Louis?
At present, very little. I literally was attempting to text Les Johnson, who manages our justice involved responsibilities, to see if we are connected with them. I frankly am not familiar with them, but that does not mean that we don't have a relationship with them.
And we do have a partnership, of course, in Kansas City, Link, and one in Springfield, the community partnership, the Ozarks. And I would just say if they are on, and they might be able to respond via chat. Let me see if there are any new questions here. Are there any other questions? Melissa, I had kind of a quick, kind of high level question. What can you tick off like the top 3 or 4 things that has made your efforts around workforce so successful with your partnership there?
One would be an excellent relationship with our probation and parole. To that end, not only are we involved in like the reentry teams with them, but they are also very active in supporting our local fundraisers that support our reentry work, particularly like Bikers for Reentry. We do that every year, and that's always in partnership with probation and parole. So I think essential, being at the table, being at their tables, then being at our tables. I think gaining perspective on the issue, having individuals like Tony and our other peer specialist, Cindy, being able to weigh in on what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, it really gives us perspective. So I think anybody doing the work has to have perspective. And then I guess number 3 would just be, just the passion and drive to do the thing that should be done and needs to be done. Brian talked a little bit about rejection on how we probably get said no for grant fundings more than we say yes. And much of the work that our agency does is not funded by Department of Corrections or community reentry funds. We've had them, we've lost them, we've had them, we've lost them. A lot of our funds are grassroots, figure it out, get it done because it needs to be done. And I think that's really about passion. So if you're really just chasing the money, it doesn't always serve you well. But if you're chasing the vision, then you figure it out. So those would be anything to add to that?
No.
I think the top 3.
Well, I think seeing no more questions at this point, I think we're going to wind this down, and kind of my closing remarks. First of all, thank you to our 4 community partnerships, the partnership of Southeast Missouri, the Randolph community caring communities, Rebecca in Butler County and Poplar Bluff, thank you so much, and Tom in Hannibal. It's hopefully what we've done here is to help you understand that the partnerships are involved in a whole host of ways around reentry issues and have been doing so for many, many years, almost 2 decades, and will continue to work in this arena. I remember and we were talking about this in one of our earlier conversations about prepping for this presentation. We really got a wake-up call when we started seeing the data coming out of DOC, specifically around those who were returning to our communities. And when we saw the number, and if you remember, Ann Presype in her opening remarks at the beginning of this, she opened the book for us. Hopefully we're closing it out. And she mentioned those figures that 95 to 98% of folks who are incarcerated will be back in our communities. And that was a wake-up call for those of us who do this kind of very specific community work, in knowing that they're going to come back to our community, they're going to be in our grocery stores, they are going to be our neighbors, they're going to be their children will be in our schools, they'll be in our churches, all of those things. And we really wanted to think about strategically how we could help as they come back, to help them be the best people and citizens that they could be. So that was our wake up, and that's how we initially got involved. But our community partnerships, and these are 4 great examples of it all, of the work that they're doing. But by and large, all of our 20 of our network of community partnerships do this work across the state. And so I thank all of you specifically for the work that you have done and being on the panel today. But I thank all of our community partnerships who are involved in this reentry world. So thank you all very much. I want to say a special thanks to Steve Rennie, co-chairperson of our board, for being present and giving your support with us. You've been a long supporter, not only of the community partnerships, but after you retired from the state and went to the for the Hospital Association. You continue to look at ways where your support could provide help to us. And we failed to mention, but you are also a member of the Foundation, Missouri Foundation for Health, I think, and Missouri Kids First organization, as well as being our co-chairperson. So thank you for all that pro bono work that you do for all those organizations. We appreciate it. We need leaders like that who are willing to give of their time. And finally, I want to say to everyone who has been on this webinar, thank you, not only for today, thank you for your gift of time and energy and effort to be involved in this virtual conference these 4 weeks, but specifically for this session to help you better understand the work that we are so intent on doing and know so well how important it is in the world of reentry. So thanks to all of you. Now, with that, I will pitch it back to Wendell.
Well, thank you, Bill. First, let me say I am very proud to be teammates with the 4 participants this afternoon. Also, our head coach, Mr. Dent, and our general manager, Mr. Rennie. Great job by everyone. Thank you so very much for helping this state understand how the community partnerships partner with the Department of Corrections from a community perspective, how we help the justice involved no longer become justice involved. As most of you know, this time of the presentation, it is raffle time. It is the Wheel of People. We are having funding. We have a $100 gift card provided by the Family and Community Trust by Mr. Dent. And as you also know, you must be attending in order to win. If you got off, there are 122 people eligible, and let's go for it, Mr. Monroe or Miss Tiffany. Let's do it. Diane Pullen, are you here? Congratulations, Diane Pullen. All righty.
Just as a tidbit, we'll make sure that she gets that. We'll make sure we get her contact information and get her that card.
We trust you, Bill.
Thank you.
We know that it will be delivered. For everyone, most of you know that that we at Arches, we love to survey. We like to get your feedback and input. So know that today there's going to be a brief survey to hopefully get your honest feedback about what we're doing well, how we could do better, given that this is the first time we've done a virtual statewide conference. Clearly, we'd like to know how we can make this a better executed activity for next year, although we hope that there will not be an activity next year. Don't forget to log on to your app to catch up with any sessions or film festival releases from earlier this month. Remember, we started the first Tuesday of October. This is our eighth day. Thank you all so very much for that. We want to thank everyone for joining us for the 15th Annual Missouri Reentry Conference, the first virtual one. As most of you know, we do this every year at the Lake. We are hopeful that the pandemic will be over this time next year, and we will all be able to be physically together, and we will be able to engage face-to-face versus laptop to laptop. Thank everyone for your work as it relates to justice-involved individuals, and thank you all for helping all of us to create better communities across the state. We want to end the conference with a video that says thank you to everyone that's been engaged in this activity. And before we start that video, I'd like to personally say thank you to 2 members of the Arches team, Miss Tiffany and Mr. Eric Monroe and Miss Tiffany Rittenbacher, who are the behind the scenes technical geniuses that have allowed us to make sure everything was executed properly, professionally, and on time. So thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, Eric. Let's take a look at the thank yous video, and we're almost done, everyone. Please stay around. Let's look at that video. Hello? All right. On behalf of the Department of Corrections, on behalf of the Family and Community Trust, on behalf of the Department, on behalf of the Department of Social Services, and on behalf of Area Resources for Community and Human Services, better known as ARCHES, thank you all for your participation. We are now officially concluded. Thank you to everyone. We'll see you in 2021, and let's hope it's at the lake. Thank you very much.